Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today we're gonna install the Rebel Off-Road Bak Pax and do the rear tire delete. So let's jump right in and see how this goes. First thing we're gonna do is remove the rear tire. Alright, so I got the tire off, and the next thing that I'm gonna do is, after already removing the stuff that I had in my cargo area, is I'm gonna pull out my panel, and then I'm going to remove this right side, I guess, bolted in panel to be able to loosen up this big trim piece. It's all one piece. So I gotta pop off the covers of these bolts and then these tie down strap areas, and then remove the panel, and then that way I should be able to move the entire thing freely. So just take a screwdriver and go ahead and pop up these covers. And then it's going to be a hex head that's provided in your Jeep toolkit. Kind of nice thing about the Jeep toolkit is that T40, it's got the T25 and the T40, and you'll be able to take these things off pretty easily. And then, as you can see, this bottom part of this whole trim panel was secured underneath there. And there's one bolt up behind this front seat, which I'll go ahead and kick down. And then we'll undo that, and then this whole thing just kind of pries off after we pop up this little seatbelt trim piece right here, because it connects basically the two pieces from together, and what we want to do is separate this whole front piece. So as you can see, if you just put a screwdriver in on this side, I tried using a trim tool and it didn't have the strength to it, so I put a screwdriver in and it came up without damaging the plastic at all. You basically have a clip on this side and then one on the other side, and it's holding the two big pieces together. After that, we're going to have the bolt on this side. It's a small hex head. I'll pull that one out, and then this whole thing should just basically come off with the little clips, the little retention clips that are in there. Alright, so the little screw that's in here holding this trim panel in is a T25 bit. It's funny, this whole thing's held together with that trim and then the little clips that are inside. So then, essentially, this whole front piece will come off with enough pressure. Now, I don't need to take this off all the way to be able to install this, but this is basically what I'm taking off to be able to wire the wiring harness through here, and then it'll be this front trim area again, just like we had to do for these Rock Slide Engineering step sliders. We'll take this trim apart as we feed it forward to the auxiliary switches that are in the front. So this is the way that I'm going to route it through the tailgate. Next thing we're going to do is remove this trim panel on the back of the tailgate. Real simple right there. And then pull it away from the retention clips that are in there. So far, everything is good. The green clips, 2 of them stayed in the door. Not even gonna worry about it. So the next thing we need to do is remove the tire carrier. I'm using a 13mm socket, and I'm gonna take off all the mounting bolts for this. All right, so make sure you retain these bolts that are on here, because we're gonna be using them again. And then we're gonna need to take the rear camera off. Alright, so to be able to remove the camera, you gotta pull it out of the harness, and you're gonna need that T25 to take this apart. And then the harness will slide back, because we're gonna replace this harness basically with the one that's provided from the Bak Pax from Rebel Off-Road. So once you have the camera out, it's easy to not break the little pinch weld right here and slide out your harness. Now the third brake light is still wired up, so we gotta take apart this front end to be able to get the brake light harness out. So now that we've got it all unscrewed, we'll basically be able to remove this front piece from our electrical, and then be able to take apart your third brake light connection, and then you have your harness separated and ready to install the Bak Pax system. Just a little pinch clip on the back side of it, and that's it. All right, so we've got all the front taken off, but to get these vents off, to put that Bak Pax on, we're gonna need to basically push down on the tabs to be able to release these without breaking them. And that one's removed, and then that's it. So as you can see, nothing broken. If you ever want to put it back on, you got the pieces to do it, or you can get rid of it, up to you. You gotta remove both of those and then put the panel on. All right, so for the wiring to get the actual camera off this harness, we're gonna unscrew these little small hex heads, and then you're gonna release the little tab right here, the retention clip from the harness point, and you'll be able to take the camera off. So for the front of the camera, it's a T7. It's gonna take a smaller bit. I have a smaller little screw set that I'm gonna use for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and detach the front from the power, and you'll be able to pull it apart that way. Now you no longer have any of the harness. I was looking at the back of the Bak Pax system, and it's just basically powder coated steel. And this is all painted, and there may be a day where I want to do something else and I don't want my paint to get messed up. So in order to mount your Rotopax, whether you got the fuel, water, whatever you want, onto the back of this Pax mount, or this Bak Pax from Rebel Off-Road, is you're gonna use the provided bolts. They have these wide shaped bolts, and then the way that they machine this backing, it sits right in there flush, and you're going to screw that into the back of the Pax mount, or locking Pax mount, whichever you have purchased, and use that to secure the Pax mount to this plate, and it'll be flush and nothing going against the tailgate of your vehicle. Really cool design. I'm glad that they thought of that and actually beveled it out so that it's flush and you don't have anything going against your tailgate. I really appreciate that personally, because I'm a attention to detail kind of guy, and you know, I don't want my tailgate scratched up any more than anybody else. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock this out by putting in a little blue Loctite onto these bolts so that they don't just wiggle loose over time. Keep them a little bit more secure. And then I'm gonna take this other Pax mount out, and it comes with provided hardware. You don't really need it for this. I got the locking one, and it also has a mounting bracket, but because of this mount that we're using, you don't need that. So I'm gonna take these provided bolts out, take off the lock, and then put the mount on using these provided bolts. There's blue Loctite, not permanent, so you don't have to worry about that much. And then I just recommend tightening them down evenly so that they don't work against each other, because if you get one locked in, the other one's not going to sit flush. I don't know if that's just my mount, or if it's just the way that they're all out. It's just not quite as precise as it could be. These holes are basically, what I'm saying is, these holes are slightly off on mine, but it's still a lot better than having a quarter of an inch sitting against your tailgate. The Pax mounts are on, and then now I should be able to bolt this to the tailgate. I have the wiring harness through here for these KC lights that I'm gonna put on top of this thing, and then what I need to do now is attach the camera back in place into the provided slot for the camera and get that taken care of. So the camera, kind of wondering how it goes in there, but basically the wiring position will be down, and then you're gonna line up the 3 holes with the ones that are inside the bracket, and then you're going to use the provided hardware to mount it into place so it doesn't wiggle around and move. And then this screw right here, or small bolt right here, will go into the top of the mounting plate, and it'll hold this whole thing in place. The tricky part is getting the camera in place and then holding an Allen wrench or a crescent wrench and this screw together while you tighten it down right against the electrical point for the camera, but it's all in place, doesn't move, solid, good to go. I have most of the mounting screws in place, and now I'm going to wire up these KC lights, and they're going to go on top. And this is also a license plate holder, but everything's coming together nicely, and then the end of it will just be electric. We have the wiring harness going from the tailgate in, following the retention strap for the door, and then we're gonna have it go through the trim and up behind the subwoofer. But because we're gonna be wiring this stuff all the way up to the engine, we're gonna have to alter this wiring harness and then get the power going all the way forward. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off basically the power portion of this, because it's designed to basically go to the engine at this point, and then make it just the power cables going all the way forward, and then when I get to the engine I'll actually reattach this and then use the factory OEM auxiliary switches from the engine bay most likely. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that real quick. I got the yellow wire out of this sleeve. I wanted to retain the sleeve just to protect the wires a little bit better. I have it crimped together, and what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of electrical tape to cover up the rest of it and kind of indicate the spot where I re-spliced it for future, just in case I ever need to know. And it's still protected relatively good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire up my electrical all the way up front. I'm basically following the electrical going along the sidewall of the vehicle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this down underneath the carpet and then underneath the trim, going all the way forward. If you've seen the video that I did where I installed these step sliders, you'll see how to remove this. It's easier for me just to explain it. What you're going to do is just press this trim panel away from your vehicle edge, and it'll start to come apart. Same thing with all of this, is you start at the door, and then you pull these away, and then we'll be able to line this up and get it all going. I zip tie this in to be able to make sure that it just stays real nice and pretty. Alright, just to show you guys, it's routed through here along the wiring harness that comes from the factory, and I slide it through here, just slide everything up, and then zip tied into what's already in place from my underseat air compressor, the ARB, and then underneath into the floor drain. I'll put all this stuff back together, and then I'll wire it into the auxiliary 1 or 2 switch from the engine, because there's the ports here. You can wire it here if you want, but I'd have to come back, and I don't really want to do that. It's not necessary. So I can wire it all the way up and then just wire it to the ones that are in the engine, and I'll show you that next. Here's underneath. It's going underneath the drain, and I'm going to follow this electrical wiring up into the engine, and then wire it into the battery. I pulled out my my engine harness portion of my OEM auxiliary switches, and I already have 2 of them consumed, so 3 and 4 are already taken up. Number 3 is like a pink and orange, and that's being used for my rigid lights. Then number 4 is a blue and purple-ish looking cord, and that's for my ARB air compressor. So I've got 1 and 2 left. One's gonna be the orange and pink, or I take that back. One's gonna be the brown and pink, and then 2 is gonna be the green and pink. So I'm gonna use green and pink for my back lights. It's way overpowered, it's 40 amps, but I have to use it because it's still there, and I'll have, if I ever want to add a winch, it's about all else I'd have to add, and I'll have another one for that too. So I'm going to use the number 2 switch. And what I did was I basically ran that wire underneath where I showed you, and then there's a hole between your battery box and your frame. It comes up your fender, so if you pull down the fender liner, you'll be able to feed it up through this little hole right here, and then I'll be able to just direct wire it in. It'll be all good to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my red wire. I've totally deleted the yellow with the fuse in it. This is already fuse controlled, so there's not really another need for it. And what I'm going to do is attach the red to the load line to this this green and pink, and then I'm going to attach the black to the ground that's right here. Now what I am going to do is cannibalize the ground, or what would be on the wiring harness, the negative side, and I'm going to put it on the cable that I brought up from the bottom. Just crimping on some wire connectors. So this is all wired up. I'm just going to clean it up, and I'll be able to use the lights off the switch. No issues. That's the kind of nice thing about the factory OEM auxiliary switches, is there's no additional really wiring to do to get it into a factory look. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up, and then clean up the back end, put it all back together, and then show you the final product. All right, product's on. This Rebel Off-Road setup is amazing. I'm really happy with it. Everything works. I'm waiting on the amber covers for the lights. Everything's cleaned up and looking really nice. I got a couple of these trim ideas and the wiring ideas from Rebel Off-Road, specifically Jacob over there. I've been dealing with him quite a bit recently. He's been a great help, allowed me to do this project at home, save some money, and I got to emulate what they do at their shop. They do a great job over there at Rebel Off-Road from everything that I've seen. They build amazing rigs. They do a military and law enforcement discount, so if you're looking for something like this, that's a perfect place to purchase it from. Yes, they are not cheap, but I really like it, and it would be well worth your while. So again, thank you Rebel Off-Road for hooking me up with the direction on the wiring and how you guys took care of that. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.